I quite often ask people this extra question at this point, and probably you're the least likely person that anyone might do this to, but have you ever been physically threatened or felt physically threatened?
No, because I was going to say that's the other thing. Other advice is see if you can be enormous. that very much helps in that situation. So I've never. My relationship with an accused person tends not to be one that heads towards that sort of hostility. I tend to, get on reasonably well with them, which helps the whole process work better. And also, I've never met anyone. I've never had an accused who's bigger than me. So,
yeah, you don't strike me as the confrontational type, Tony, with clients or deliberately. I
don't like confrontation at all. It's my least favourite part. Sometimes if you have a case with either a co-accused's counsel or an advocate depute with whom there is tension, I absolutely hate that. I absolutely hate it. It's by far and away the least pleasant aspect. The case and speaking to the jury and all the rest of it is nothing compared to that sort of situation. I don't enjoy conflict like that at all.
Me neither. All right. Question number 14. Would you recommend law as a career?
I definitely enjoy doing it. And I am definitely glad that I have had the career trajectory that I have. I think that my pathway into it might be more difficult now. I'm not sure that there is anything like the opportunity in, legal aid cases, legal aid firms that there used to be, because it's not funded in the way that it used to be. So if people can get through that part and can end up back on the trajectory that I have and going to the bar and things like that, then I would absolutely recommend that, because I enjoy it very much. I've met lots of fantastic, interesting, impressive people. And I don't mean just at the bar at that. It brings you into, when I was a solicitor, you would meet people within your own sort of bubble. Whereas now I meet people from the north to the south, to the east to the west, and just lots of very impressive individuals who are committed to improving the lives of others. And, and making a living doing that. So I enjoy this job. And going back to what I said, I don't think I've ever, there's been times when you're going into a trial and you've got, something very difficult to do that day or whatever, or going to the appeal court. But I've never dreaded it. I've never thought, I wish I was doing something. Obviously, I wish I had a massive Euro millions win, don't get me wrong. Short of that, it's a job I enjoy.
You don't even have days where you wake up knowing it's going to be an horrific hearing or something difficult? You don't have dread then?
Do you know what? Sometimes people ask me that. When I climbed a lot, and climbing was really all I did for a long time, and certainly for that year, dawn to dusk, it gave you a different sense of perspective in that it puts you in situations, particularly winter climbing, where you're a mistake away from something terrible happening. And you can spend long periods of time where you have to take a series of decisions, any one of which taken badly is the end.
Yeah.
And it means then that when I'm appearing in court, I'm not ever worried about it in the same way. There are times when judges have been unhappy with me or whatever. But at the end of the day, you still go back home and things are absolutely fine. So I don't find it daunting from that point of view. Mm-hmm. That's not to say that you don't have nerves at times, particularly I find that, the appeal court, because I'm very rarely in the appeal court. So I'm never in my comfort zone in the appeal court in the way that in first instance work. I've been doing that for so long now. Yeah. And also you feel, I don't know whether it's because really terrifying judges are a thing of the past, or whether simply as you get older and more experienced, your perception of judges changes. So judges that might be terrifying if I was a trainee solicitor or whatever just now, just aren't terrifying when you're at the same stage just now.
Yeah.
give you examples of judges who weren't terrifying. I will assist my future career. So,
and I've had a few guests on, Tony, who told me, and in fact, just people or solicitors in general, or advocates who have told me about them going off on ventures with you. Is that are you educating them in the way of physical fear, and that'll help them overcome any fear in courtrooms, sharing your experiences?
I'm decades past having the sort of fitness and continued exposure which allows me to do the things I used to do. Years and years and years ago, that ship sailed. So whenever they come with me, it's normally because they've expressed an interest in going to fish in an odd place. Perthshire, which is called the Gorge of Certain Death. And Richard Goddard has been there. Ian Duguid's been in there. Mark Chambers has been in there. Mark Chambers has been in a good few times. The place that we go to on Harris, if you take a small boat, involves going through some pretty open ocean where to your left-hand side all you've got is Greenland. And Mark Chambers, if you ever speak to him, would be able to tell you that sometimes is dramatic. Yeah. I took Simon Gilbride caving. I can't remember if I've taken anybody else caving, because caving's dramatic. If you go to the place I used to take people caving, it was called Skull Cave, Uav na Clagian and Lochaber. And it's dramatic because at the start of it, you've got a flat-out crawl through what's called a phreatic tube. So it's a dissolved passageway in the limestone, but it's only about 15 inches high, so it's not a squeeze, but it's still dramatic when you're in it thinking there's 172 million tons of rock above me. So people who come along to that, so Mark Chambers has been along to that. I'm sure Simon Gilbride came along to that. I can't remember who else. But that, that's an interesting experience for people, because having been in that situation so often, you don't notice it. And it's not physically hard the way I couldn't take people climbing because I'm just not fit in the way that I used to be. But I can give people a genuinely scary day out caving if they fancy it.
Yeah, and do you, in particular, the fishing and the kind of remote area that you take them to, do you tell them ahead of time how you will get them to this remote place, or do you just like to leave that as a surprise?
No, you need to tell them, because by the time they get to the bit where it becomes difficult, it'd be a real pain to have to then just go back out. So they're forewarned of that, and it's done in a way that's perfectly safe. So the particular difficult bit, they have effectively a climbing backup rope attached to a tree. So it's fine from that point of view, but I'm sure it's still dramatic to do it, but it's safe. I wouldn't take somebody along to something where I wasn't able to look after their security during that. That would be an awkward phone call to somebody's beloved to say, good news, bad news. Good news is got a fish. Bad news is I'm not sure where Jimmy is. So.
Oh, dear me.
What do you think of a pipe? Do you think this is effective?
I meant to ask you when I first saw that at the start of the quiz. I'm concerned that through lockdown you've taken up smoking, because I know you're not a man of putting toxins in your body. So what on earth are you doing with that?
It's a combination of things.
Right.
You won't know who Jack Hargreaves is. Jack Hargreaves was the ultimate pipe smoker. And they allowed you to understand the importance of a pipe. When you're making a point, when you're having an argument, when you want to appear whimsical, there's so much you can do with a pipe. So my intention was, if I can start bringing a pipe into court, then one of the things you do with a pipe, I'm not really sure what it is. I mean, this was my grandpa's pipe, and I remember loving the smell of it, albeit now this physical thing is a horrible smell. But pipe smoke was very aromatic, quite sweet, in a way that I've never liked being close to cigarette smokers or anything like that. But if you could take it into court, then there's all sorts of footering you can do, and you can pack the bowl with, tease out bits of tobacco and light it and knock it against things against the heel of your boot. So it would give you time to think. And I think it'd also be quite atmospheric for jurors. I like when you go through the colonnade at Parliament House and you see where gentlemen have been striking their vestas against the sandstone. I find that enormously evocative. So, but I can't. You can't go for a big curly Sherlock Holmes pipe too early on in your pipe career. That's a second or third pipe. This is a more straightforward. Don't know what it is. Briar, maybe. So, Donald, you should ask Donald about pipes. Donald can smoke a pipe well. Yeah. I don't know if he does.
I think he's given up now, but he did.
He smoked it well, and he carried it well. He was well into the Sherlock Holmes. He could carry a Sherlock Holmes. I can't do that. This is a learner's pipe.
Mm. Well, good luck with that, Tony, in court when you go to light it, and you can maybe come back and tell us how that goes with the court.
All right. I might be on to slightly fancier pipe next time we speak, bit of a curve in the stem or something. We'll see how it goes.
And one of those hats with the flappy bits over your ears.
A deer stalker.
A deer stalker. You probably got.
No, I've never liked a deer stalker. I've got a great big head. Going back to Mark Chambers, it's a shame. I hope some people know who Mark Chambers is because he's got the biggest head you've ever seen, like a beach ball with hair. But I also have a big head, but it means you can't normally get any hats you get that fit. You just have to stick with them because there were hats that you would like. I'm not sure, like a deer stalker. You never really see people wearing deer stalkers. Even deer stalkers don't wear deer stalkers.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Where are we now?
15.
We're at 15. What aspects of your job bring you the most satisfaction?
I like the fact that you can definitely, all of us can look back and say, I have changed the course of somebody's life doing this job. So that's very satisfying. I quite like working with the schools. So I know you do the mini trials, and I'm involved with the mock trials. And so it's the sort of Judean People's Front versus the People's Front of Judea, if you're a Monty Python fan. So I know that there's tension between the two warring mini trials, mock trials competitions. I find that very satisfying. So people that I worked with, when I worked with them and they were school children, are now practicing lawyers and things like that. The mock trials one is a competition which involves only state schools. And so, there are folk who have backgrounds that haven't propelled them towards the law and are now just impressive young lawyers here and there and all the rest of it. And I find that sort of thing very satisfying. Albeit I never remember their names. Never. And so they'll come and say, Miss Lynn, how are you doing? Do you remember me? And I do have to try and bluff my way out of that slightly because I'm just terrible with people's names. I used to find people that I worked with when I was a criminal solicitor would be fantastic, would be able to say, oh yeah, how are you doing? And how such and such, because they know who the stepbrother is and all the rest of it. I could not remember people's names. So my trick for that was to say to them, what's your second name again? And so they would think, well, obviously he knows me well enough to know my first name. But the truth is, I've got no idea who they are, and I'm hoping that they've got an unusual surname so that when they say it's Mick Shugelgrumper, you think, God, of course, that's who you are. So that's my problem when I meet pupils from schools who are now, I can never remember who they are. I mean, I remember meeting them, but names, no chance. Schools, no chance. Oh, but that's very satisfying, to see that. I'm not at all suggesting that these are people, because these are people who were already heading towards law by the time I met them. So it's not anything on my part that got them started in that. But if I added a positive layer of motivation, then that's, I think.
I'm sure you did, Tony. I'm sure that inspired them, and even more so if you'd had that pipe at the time.
I know. I feel as if I wasted a lot of time not having a pipe. And I don't think I use it well enough. So I need to focus. I need it to become natural. That in moments of thought, and even speaking sometimes, and then, but just making a point, but pointing the. I'll work on it. We'll speak again in a year or so, and we'll see how we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Question number 16. What skill do you think every lawyer should have or learn?
I quite like people who have a good command of a wide vocabulary. So there are certain words that if I am ever elevated, as I expect to be, to the role of philosopher king. There are certain words, like pertaining, he'd be lashed for saying pertaining. And other words which are terribly lawyery, and I think normally there's a better way of saying it. But having a good command of English so that you can choose your words well, and also sometimes draw people in by the use of interesting words, and not using lots of Latin phrases to try and impress people with your learning. But I like, during lockdown, for example, I was reading some Dickens, which the sort of books that you feel as if you should read, but you never get around to reading because there's always something more interesting or current. But Dickens writes absolutely beautifully. You know, his vocabulary and the precision with which he writes is absolutely extraordinary. So, you know, David Copperfield or Great Expectations, or I'm reading Bleak House just now. Just honestly wonderful, worth reading, even if there wasn't a story. But master storyteller, really, you understand why he's held in such regard. Yeah. I should have read them years ago. Should have read them all years ago. But there you go. Yeah,
that's Tommy Ross's favourite book, Bleak House.
Was that right?
Yeah, I'm sure it's Bleak House. Yeah, I'm sure that's what he said on his. Again, the previous quiz had a question about what book should everybody read. So, yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad you've got into that. And have you been using any or utilising any new words that you've discovered through those Dickens books?
Not consciously, but I think what it's done is it has reminded me to improve the precision of my language, and particularly my written work. Although I got into trouble recently because I used the word doomed in a Section 75A minute. And I meant it was doomed to postponement or something like that. So I need to strike a balance and not become a pompous so-and-so.
A 75A minute or a 275, maybe more appropriate than a 275.
Section 75A minute. So.
Oh, all right. Okay, Tony. Question number 17.
Favourite chocolate bar, easy, Mint Aero, end of story. There is no other chocolate bar really beyond the Mint Aero. You know, if I was Desert Island and a case of biscuit boosts washed up, I could have a go at them. But although the problem with the Mint Aero is temperature stability, you know, it is acutely affected by hot temperatures, things like that. Yeah. But okay.
No, I like a Mint Aero. I don't like Boost. I don't like anything with biscuit in it. A chocolate bar disguised as, or a biscuity based chocolate bar is not a chocolate bar, it's a biscuit. Anything with biscuit in it is not a good idea.
Yeah, Twix is a biscuit.
That's a good point, and I don't mind a Twix.
Twix is good. Twix is good. It's not flashy. There's nothing flashy about Twix, but it is, the essentials are there. Good ergonomics.
Good with a coffee. It's the biscuit, it's the like a Boost or a tiffin thing where there's bits of biscuit as if it's been scraped off the floor, the remnants of some other bar.
I think there's a broken biscuit cake. Yeah. A broken biscuit cake can be good. No. You know?
No. But I'm with the Mint Aero. And what is that green stuff in the middle? Is that chocolate? Is it white chocolate coloured green? What is the green bit?
I honestly don't care. I really don't. And I also don't know. I'm going to say it's green chocolate. It's green chocolate. It's a particular type of cocoa bean that's green.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, green chocolate. Yeah.
Well, with a point of the pipe, that is now fact. A green chocolate. Okay. Question 18. What job would you be terrible at, Tony?
I'm not good at saying no when I should say no. Right. So I couldn't be bank manager. I don't know if bank managers now approve people's loans or not. I don't know what the deal is. So things like that I wouldn't be good at. I've you know, people who know me would know there are things that I have an unrealistically high impression of my own abilities. So there's lots of jobs I think, oh yeah, I'd definitely be great at that. It's like, easy. But I actually, for a while, I thought, I wouldn't mind being a psychiatrist. But I've had my fill of university exams, to be honest. I've had 2 full sets of them. A third set I just don't have in me. Right. And also, I suspect that's quite a sad job. You must deal with unfixable tragedy a lot. Maybe not. Maybe I don't understand it enough.
Yeah.
You could definitely smoke it.
Definitely, that would fit. Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe you can indoors now. That's so I'd have to interview people outdoors.
Yeah, well, that was my point about the danger of you taking that into court and the judge just wondering at which point you were about to strike up.
All right. Question 19.
Yeah, I'm hesitating at this point, Tony, because I'm worried that you're going to drag the carcass of some dead shot deer into the frame.
So question 19 is, what's my favourite animal?
Mm-hmm. And I know you like...
I'll see if you'll come in, shall I?
Right, okay.
No, it's fine. I know her hair's not great, but it doesn't... And you come in. Come in.
I knew it. What on earth is that?
Well, if you can... You've got to see him in his grandeur. You can't really see it from this angle, because he's got very, very impressive horns. Very impressive.
An animal.
It's a bull greater kudu.
Oh, it's a kudu, right? I've seen one of them live in the wilds of South Africa. No,
this one's live. Talking about this one's live. He's just. I think he's frightened. He's not sure of the medium. Like me, he doesn't enjoy video conferencing. But just let him calm down.
You've got him very well trained. He's very still, Tony.
Yeah, he's just woken up.
It's quite disconcerting, that stare of the poor thing.
I don't have any pets. What we've got, where we live now, because we live out in the country a bit, we've got lots of rabbits in the garden.
Uh-huh.
We are occasionally blessed with roe deer. So there's a mother and 2 young, so a doe and 2 youngsters who appear. And you occasionally, for a while, she had a young male, but he's now gone off on his own, so you see him separately. But I put down feed for, not very far from us, there's Duntreth Castle, which has a big sort of pheasant shooting component to it. But of course, as they try and shoot pheasants, lots of them fly away. So there's lots of wild pheasants around about here now. And so pheasants traipse through the garden. And I've got a pheasant feeder and also down lots of peanuts and all the rest of it. And so you've got a tremendous accumulation of, and they're not really pets, but they sort of feel like pets. They'll tolerate you coming quite close to them. So the rabbits now, I fed the rabbits earlier on, and I can get to within 4 or 5 feet of them. But I wish I could explain to them that it would be fine just to come over and they could have a wee ear tickle or something. And the pheasants are incredibly stupid. Whilst they are beautiful birds, I don't know if you've seen a pheasant close up, but they're wonderful. They're like parrots. They're the males in particular. Even the females have got a tremendous sort of petrol sheen on the neck feathers. And they're very stupid.
They are.
And they'll come pretty close to you, but not close enough that you could hand feed them. Maybe if I tried harder, I could do that.
Mm. I feel so sorry for them because these are the ones that wander across the road and...
Correct. I hate seeing that.
And so where did you get that kudu from, Tony, dare I ask?
No, I simply quite like buying that old taxidermy. So I've had no part to play in his demise. Right. I don't know the circumstances of his demise. But it's a dramatic thing in a room. I've got a cracking set of moose antlers, which are too heavy to bring in. Otherwise, you'd see them too. My wife absolutely loves them.
I imagine they are, you've got a room to yourself that you can do as you please in. I can only imagine what's in it.
But it's interesting. It teaches you. So a red deer stag, you would imagine is the size of a horse, but it isn't. I would weigh, if I was a red deer stag, I'd be a really big, impressive weight. So 17 stone or 18 stones, is a pretty big red deer stag.
Right.
A bull moose. A bull moose is 2/3 of a ton. And it's when you see the antlers of a bull moose, you realise it's like an elephant. So it's very impressive. So these are all very interesting animals. I was bidding recently I don't need to tell you this, but the dream mountain goat is the Markhor, Markhor. And I was bidding on a Markhor recently because you'll never really get. They're quite rare now. It's possible that one of Donald Trump's sons went hunting them recently. But I didn't get that. And they also had a Himalayan ibex. And so they're very impressive. Amongst the goat family, they've got fantastic, fantastic horns. But Kudu's good.
Yeah.
No, of course, the biggest of the antelopes, that would be the giant of land. But the horns are not so great in the giant of land. Just looks like good.
Is your favourite animal some sort of...
No, be a fish, for sure. Be a salmon, I think. Salmon's a wonderful creature. Very interesting creature. Or a bonefish. You won't know what a bonefish is. But it's also very nice. Very shiny.
Bonefish? I don't think I do. Not the most cuddly of animals, though, I don't imagine, Tony.
No, I don't think they respond well to that. But salmon, I like salmon, or, you know what, a fresh-run salmon is as beautiful a creature, I think, as I can. I mean, I haven't seen everything yet. Never seen a live marlin. I imagine that's pretty dramatic as well. But, you know, a nice silver fresh-run salmon is really very attractive. Is that too strong a word? Is that the wrong word?
It's a bit concerning, Tony. Shall we move on to the question 20, which question or what question should we have included in our quiz?
I think you should ask people, what do they think of the new way of Zoom communication and all the rest of that? Because it's important. I don't know how much we will continue to use it, but my suspicion is there might be an appetite for using it all the more in court. And I think my impression, I've done a few trials now with the jury remote, and that works okay. Mm-hmm. You lose the ability to have, if I say intimate communication with the jury, it blunts your ability to interact with the jury, but it still works. It still works.
Yeah.
I think I am less able to persuade through the medium of video. So I'm not in general a fan of it. I look forward to coming back to a situation where we all meet face to face. And I also think that I'm feeling the lack of the social contact that you didn't give a second thought about and took for granted for the last, since the last Spanish flu or whenever it was. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't enjoy this, and I know that it's a necessary evil, but I view it as a necessary evil for the moment.
I think I would agree. The jury trials you do definitely lose something, don't you? And it's a bit the sea of faces, which you normally wouldn't get to stare at because that would just be rude. If you're next to people, can be a bit off-putting as well, and even less kind of understanding of what they're thinking, or even not. And I don't just mean for speeches or when it comes to the verdict, but even when you're cross-examining, you would quite often rely on a jury's response or body language to let you know when you should be sitting down or maybe keep going if it was a line that they seemed to be engaging with. So definitely something else, but much preferable to the alternative of no jury trials at all. So it's definitely working well. And the technology is great. I mean, it's incredible that for years we've had, somebody giving evidence from a room next door and the thing wouldn't work for days. And then we're having this kind of massive technology beaming a trial into a cinema, and it's working really well. So,
what's impressive is how quickly that was done. So I only really know the names of one of the people in the team, and he hates when I give him the credit because he's very clear that there's a team of them doing it. But there's a chap called Stephen Darcy who was involved with that whole process. And I know there are people behind it, but I just don't know who they are. So hats off to all of those people, because to go from not having anything like this anywhere, not south of the border or anything like that, to having a fully working system, well thought out and all the rest of it. And I know there's a working group involved and all sorts of people involved in that, but in terms of just drawing the technology together to have a robust platform that makes it work, I think that's very impressive in the short time that they did it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So, yeah, but I look forward to the day we get back into court with the jury, if that day comes, but we shall see. Well, Tony, we have now concluded. You have successfully completed the Hey Legal quiz. And I've certainly enjoyed your answers and chatting with you. So I hope it wasn't too terrifying an experience for you. But thank you very much for taking part.
I feel as if I didn't get enough opportunity to say how difficult a fiscal you were.
Oh, dear. What was it you called me? Attila the Hun, wasn't it?
Her head in shame. What was that, sorry?
What was it you called me, my nickname?
I don't know.
I think it was Attila the Hun or something like that.
I'm sure it'd be worse than that. You would have been amply deserving of that. Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tony. And I'm sure lots of people will tune in to watch this. Very entertaining. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you in your pipe soon.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.